All right, Dasha, do you hear me now?
Hello.
Dasha, do you hear me?
Welcome back, everyone, to our third and final math review. We're going to give everyone a couple minutes to get together. As before, you guys want to get your notebooks, you want to get pen and pencil, right? So we
You
can
hear me
make
now?
this as collaborative as we did the last 2 days.
Dasha, do you hear me? Hello?
We also said that we encourage you and ask you to keep your cameras on, right? So we can all see each other and participate, and keep yourselves muted.
Dasha, do you hear me?
Do you guys hear Miss Kweller?
Do you guys hear me?
Oh, I don't hear Mrs. Kweller.
Wait. Oh, Dasha doesn't hear me. Wait, you don't hear me? Dasha, how do you not hear me? Hello? Zoe, help! Dasha, I have
Wait,
no
I
idea.
can hear you now.
Oh my, how did you not hear me before?
I don't know, this whole time since I joined the meeting. I'm like, well, why is she here but not here?
Phew. Okay. Everyone, finally. All right, everyone. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So this is our third day, and this is actually our last. So we've had a beautiful community of students, and I just want to let you know that we're so excited that you're here, and I'm glad that everyone can hear me. Finally, that was a scare. All right, so I just want to make sure. Did we start the record? Yes. Um, Everyone, I just want to, Dasha, can we see more of your chin, please? Okay. Oh, Zoe, thank you. Zoe, thank you for calling me a girl boss. It put me in a great mood the whole day. I just want to let you know. So I just want to say thank you to every single one of you. And I want to thank every single 82 people who are here right now, because this is our very last math Zoom extra help series. We will be reviewing and practicing, and the actual course will begin, but today is the third and final day of the math extra help. Dasha is going to, in the chat box, please she's going to drop a link. We just need you guys to complete the survey. The reason we need this is to make sure that we have great accountability. We want to make sure that what we're doing is effective during these sessions. And if there's anything more that we can do, please communicate that with us. So we just want to share this with you, that this is a very special, important, meaningful moment. We're going to just ask you to take a moment, fill out the survey, give us any feedback if you feel that there's anything else that you want us to do as we're working through the program. Before we begin, I want to kind of start with the end by saying, Dasha, thank you for doing this for 3 days straight. Thank you for teaching 6 hours. Thank you so much for being part of Kweller Prep for over 10 years. Thank you for being with us since you were yourself a student at Hunter High School. So we have really known you through such a long stretch. Thank you for teaching at Kweller Prep in Queens, at Manhattan, via Zoom, remotely. Thank you for all of your effort and your hard work and your amazing explanations. We want to share that with you. So everyone, it's Dasha, can you just open the chat box? We're gonna give Dasha a thank you for our last big, we're just gonna say thank you, because this is gonna be our last big math webinar, and then we're gonna be proceeding. I just want to remind you guys, we will all, thank you so much. Oh, thank you. Dasha, you are also a girl boss. I want to share that with you. It's not just me, we are a team. So thank you so much. I do want to also remind all of you, we have an essay webinar. We have Hunter Test 2. We're going to go over every single question. So we're going to be doing a lot, because Kweller Prep is a machine, and we are going to keep working until the test. And I just want to remind everyone, it does not matter. It's not about getting into Hunter. It's just about learning. It's about knowledge. Knowledge is power. You are getting smarter every time you're in these webinars. That's it. Our goal is just to get a little bit more information, learning a little bit more. And to be smarter at 9 p.m. than you were at 7 p.m. That's all we want, okay? That's it. Thank you, everyone. I'm not even going to speak anymore because I want to make sure we get through all these questions. I'm so happy that we're doing this. Here is to the other girl boss, Dasha. She's even in a girl boss suit today. Okay, so she's in a suit. That's how she's fancy for us, which I know is because you really had work all day. But thank you, Dasha. Thank you for being a real adult working and then running this webinar for about 100 or so kids. Thank you. All right, everyone, without further ado, I also want to remind you, take a minute, fill out the questionnaire because we need to make sure that we're targeted with what we're teaching you, and we don't want to skip anything. So please take a moment, fill everything out. All right, I'm going to drop it in the chat too. All right, Dasha, you are ready and you are a woman in charge. Let's go.
Should we do that? You said before to do that around 8:30. So should we wait until the
You
end?
know what? I'll drop it in the chat now so kids can take a minute to fill it out. Okay.
Okay,
I'm gonna
then when so I'm gonna turn off the chat settings for you guys so you don't all spam.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'm gonna I'll
It makes
I
sense, and then you can drop it for everyone. And then so let's take 5 minutes, fill out the survey, and I don't want it to distract us from the rest of class, so let's just do it and be done.
Oh, so you think they should? Okay, fine. So I'm gonna drop it in the chat right now. Hold on a second. Let me just dig it up right now. Okay, hold on. Easy text. We also sent all of you an easy text. By the way, we also want to know, how that is working. Like, do you like that we're texting you? Do you want us to email you? Like, we just want to see what is working and what's making sense. And we need these surveys to communicate, how your user experience is so far. So hold on, where's my chats? 1 second. Okay, hold on. Help. Hold on. Gosh, Dasha, today's not. Hold on. For some
You want
reason,
me to send it? I have it.
Dasha, 1 second. Hold on. Let me give it to you. Okay, hold on.
I have it if you want me to put it in.
Okay, I just texted it to you.
Okay. I have it from your earlier email, so I'll just send it.
Okay.
Here you guys go. I just dropped the link. So quickly.
Oh, perfect. It's opening now. All right. So everyone, please just literally let's give it like 2 minutes just to quickly fill this form out. We want to get a clear picture of, just go to open link. We just want to get a clear picture of what's working, what's not working. I mean, let's give it like a minute, right? Something, do you want us, what would you like to, I'm thinking.
You
Guys,
guys
why
already
don't
have the link, just click it, do it now really quickly, and then we can move on and focus on the math.
Fine. Let's just, okay, everyone, let's do it right now quickly just to get a feel for what is working, what isn't working. So let's give it like a minute or two just to work on this, on the feedback form. We are specifically looking for feedback to make sure that these webinars are working and that you're getting what you need from them. And if you need us to do anything differently, we need it like in writing, like we need to be able to learn and see, obviously Zoom is hard. We want to make sure that we're targeting and that you're learning while you're with us. All right, so let's give it another minute, okay?
Is everyone able to open the link? Is anyone having trouble with it? Kylie, you have a question?
No, just that this is like the first time I've been doing a webinar, so afterwards I do it now.
You could do it at the end. If this is your very first webinar, you could do it at the end. Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
I'll send the link again at the end. So if anyone
So if you've already, so if you've already done the webinars, we need to make sure that we're targeted. All right. We have another essay webinar coming up. We have 3 more after that. We're gonna, any suggestions you guys have, we're gonna do literally anything. I'm also curious to see if the 7 to 9 p.m. idea is working well, because I know that this is on the late end, and I know a lot of you have earlier bedtimes. So I just want to get a picture of what's working. Just put any topic that you want us to offer in. Please put it in the Google form because we're going to review the form. And obviously, if like 30 of you tell us that you want us to spend more time on essay or more, if you want us, for example, to do another math webinar, we have until April 5 to figure this all out. So if you'd like, just communicate in the form what you want us to do. So Dasha, let's give everyone a minute, okay? So if you could just please write your request in the form and we're gonna take care of it. Or if you think that this is working fine, that's okay too, but we want to make sure that we're improving. Dasha, I think we're just about done. Those of you where this is your first webinar, we're going to save about 3 minutes at the end just to complete the survey and see how this session went. And just remember, communication is everything. We want to know how our performance is, and we want to make sure that you're getting a lot from these webinars and workshops. I can't stress how important it is to get clear feedback on what is working from the program and obviously what, ways that we can improve. Dasha, thank you so much. All right, let's get started. Good luck, everyone. Have a great webinar, and here's to gaining knowledge from now to 9 p.m. Bye.
All right, so welcome back to those of you who were here the last 2 days, and welcome to those of you who are new. We will continue to work through the links that were sent over by email and text that have packets in math, and today we're going to be focusing on 2 of the homework packets. The ones for chapters 2 and chapters 3, if you want to pull them up. I will put them on the screen, so don't worry. Like I said before, if you haven't already, I strongly recommend that you get a notebook or some pen and paper so that you can follow along, copy down our explanations, and also solve the questions on your own. We're going to continue to look at some of the different kinds of questions that appear on the Hunter test. And the questions that we will review, I have like handpicked as things that I have seen in prior Hunter exams. So they are all types of questions that you can possibly see. And we did talk about how these are questions that, math questions, they are expecting you to solve them in about 60 to 90 seconds each. But and particularly yesterday, for those of you who remember and were here, we solved a couple of very challenging questions that took us, a bit more time. And don't fear, because we're going to come up to that again today, that some questions will take us longer and will take more steps, but it will be compensated for the easier questions that took us less time. We'll also just be talking about tricks and strategies that make these questions go by faster. So yes, so before we get started, I'm going to share my screen. If you guys can all turn your cameras on, make sure you're all muted. And this is the first packet. It is the lesson 2 homework packet from the links that were sent around by email. So first question, this one really stumps people, and let's look at why. The question reads, suppose that A symbol B means A3A minus B. What is the value of X if 2 symbol parentheses 5 symbol x equals 1. Well, let me start you with something simpler. So before you jump into solving this, I have another problem for you.
Dasha, let's take a minute. Everyone, I just want to remind you, everything you're looking at right now, we have also emailed this. These are public open source links to examples. So these, Dasha, if you could just drop the link in the chat, this way everyone can follow along.
Okay.
So everyone, Dasha's going to put the link in, but regardless, you already have this link in your email. We also sent an easy text earlier, and the text message includes the link to the practice problems that we're doing now. We've also sent an email that has these practice problems as well. All right, so proceeding right now, check the chat, your easy text, or the email, okay? Good.
So I made the problem bigger. I hope everyone can see. I'll drop the link in just a second.
Okay, and your share screening, everyone, I just want to make sure it's big enough. Good, perfect.
So the packets are all in this link. You're just gonna have to scroll down to find them. I encourage you to try this out in your notebook and message me the answers. I will not be responding in the chat, but it's kind of more of a survey, and then we will discuss them together. So I said originally that this kind of question can stump a lot of people at first. Why? Because we're looking at something we might have never seen before, right? What is this thing? What is this a symbol? We know that that symbol sometimes means multiplication, right? But in this case, it's telling us that it means something totally different. And I have seen this symbol on real tests look like a smiley face, or the and symbol, or a triangle, or anything else, right? It doesn't matter what that symbol is. Don't let it scare you. And that's something that can appear really challenging at first because it doesn't look like something you recognize. So before you jump into the real question here, we're kind of making this a 3-part question, right? First 2 that I gave you, and the third one is solving for X in this bigger scheme of things. So I'll start off with a hint for those of you who are looking at this a little confused. What this means for us is that A symbol B means that whatever comes before the symbol is our A, and whatever comes after the symbol is our B. And all we have to do is plug in that A and B into the formula, which in this case is 3A minus B. It's a really common question that appears, and I promise it's not as bad as it looks because all we're doing is really just substituting numbers for variables. They're just making it look scarier by adding in symbols. So take a stab at it. You can send me your answer in 3 parts. You could say like 1, 2, 3, and then we'll review it together in a minute.
And I just want to confirm, everyone, the link to the questions is here in the chat. Go into problem 2.1. This is Belmont 3, right? Is that correct?
It's Belmont homework 2.
Okay.
If you're not able to pull it up, it doesn't matter because everything will be on the screen anyway. So if you have your notebook, that's pretty much all you need. Some of you are getting this. This is great. I encourage you guys to double check your work, right? Make sure it sounds right. If you're really confused, don't worry. We're going to go over it together in just a second. Okay, I'll start you guys out on the first one, and then as we review, you can maybe see and correct your answers for the second and third one. So in the first one, we have 4 symbol 6. Now this is the easiest because this is the most direct replacement of the number to the letter. So like we said, anything that's before the symbol represents the A, anything that's after the symbol represents the B. So that tells us that 4 equals A and 6 equals B. So if I plug it into the 3 times 4 minus 6, I will get 12 minus 6. And my answer for part 1 is 6. That's all we had to do. So you see how we did that? Now this is where it gets trickier. What happens when we have parentheses or multiple numbers in there? So in number 2, where we have 5 symbol 7 symbol 2, we have to do the same thing, except now we have to use PEMDAS, meaning we have to do what's in parentheses first. So if you haven't done it yet, try it out. 5 symbol 7 symbol 2. First step is we have to do 7 symbol 2, where A equals 7 and B equals 2. And then we got 19. So then second step is we plug it in for what we had in the parentheses, which is now instead of 7 symbol 2, I'm going to write 5 symbol 19. Where now A is 5, and B is 19. So we have 3 times 5 minus 19. So 15 minus 19 is negative 4. So in that 2-step process, our answer became negative 4. So copy that down if you haven't. Now that was just a practice run, right? Obviously these numbers are not connected to the real question. Now if we go to the real question, they're telling us 2, I'll use a different color here. 2 symbol 5 symbol X equals 1. Now here we understand that because we have the answer already, and we have a lot of the numbers except the X, we have to do what? We have to work backwards. Question is, how do we do that? So knowing what we know now about this, see if you can figure it out. And we'll take some questions in the end if this is confusing, but I think we've covered everything so far. Okay, the first way, let's get started. A lot of you are getting this, that's really, really great. So the first way to view this is I see this as the 2 pieces, 2 parts that it is, where this is my A and this is my B, right? So plugging it in back to my formula, right? The formula stays the same the entire question. 3 times 2 minus B, which is 5 symbol X. But then we also have this being A and this being B. So now we have to do the same thing again, except we swap out those for the A and B. So we're going to get 3 times 2 minus 3 times 5 minus x. And we know that all equals 1. And now we can simplify. We know that 3 times 2 is 6. We know that 3 times 5 is 15. And well, the other part is just x. I'm going to rewrite this here so we can keep working. 6 minus 15 minus x equals 1. I can distribute the negative sign. So 6 minus 15 plus x equals 1. 6 minus 15 is negative 9. And then add negative 9 to both sides, meaning add 9 to both sides, and I will get that x is 10.
I just want to remind you guys to take screenshots, take pictures. This is your Dash. You better keep smiling and looking happy because they're going to be taking your photo. I just want to remind you guys, take photos and screenshots because this is your big opportunity to review this later in your phone and your iPad and your computer. Keep reviewing these questions. This is very similar to the Hunter map. This is also what you'll see in AMC 8, American Math Competition Math. You can also write it down yourselves, but you can do both. All right, go ahead.
Okay, I will keep this up for a minute because I see there's a couple of questions. So can you drop your questions in the chat if something's not making sense to you, and I will quickly review a couple of things. A couple of things that are recurring here about where the first 2 parts came from, this 4 by 6 and then 5 symbol, 7 symbol 2. These were practice problems that helped us understand the use of the symbol. They have nothing, the numbers have nothing to do with the numbers of the actual question. So don't confuse us for including these numbers in there. Then when we came to the real question, a couple of things there. So how did we figure out what A and B were? That's a really good question. So whenever we have the symbol, whatever is before the symbol is A, and whatever is after the symbol is B. So think about it like left and right. So when we have our question, here we have 2 symbols. So that's what makes it tricky. And that's why we reviewed this question number 2. We know that this is the left side, so this is our A. And we know that this is the right side, so this is our B. It's always left and right. That never changes. Whether the equation is different, whether our symbol is a smiley face or not, whatever's to the left is A, whatever's to the right is B. That doesn't change. Now, and that's what we wrote out here, right? We put it into our formula where this is A, and we put into our formula that this was B, where A we multiplied by 3, and B we subtracted. But then we realized that, wait a second, we also have the second part where of 5 symbol X, where this is our A and this is our B. So we kept this part, right? The 3 times 2 didn't change. But we then said, okay, 5 is A. What do? We multiply A by 3 because formula is right here. And we subtract B, which is X. So that's why we subtract X. And that's how we got this very important full expression equation. And then what we did was mostly just algebra. We were easily able to multiply 3 times 2 to get 6. We were easily able to multiply 3 times 5 to get 15, and the x stayed the same. Now, another challenge point here where I think a lot of people make mistakes is that they forget to distribute the negative sign. When we subtract something in a parentheses, do not forget to distribute the negative to both parts, right? When we distribute the negative, the first part gets negated to become negative 15, but the second part negative x is the same as doing plus x. And that's where those two came from. And that's also why I kept everything in parentheses in the beginning so that we don't lose track of where they are. If I wrote this out without any of the parentheses, you would have just subtracted the 3 or you would have just subtracted the 15. So it's very important for your notes and in general to keep the parentheses where they are. Another question, will the Hunter test have confusing signs like this? Yes, right? Like I said, these signs, this sign in particular might even be more confusing because it looks like a multiplication sign. But as we said, in this case, it does not mean multiplication. And I've seen it be a smiley face, and I've seen it be a diamond shape. It could be absolutely anything, a squiggle, anything. But if it tells us that this means this, then all that matters for us is that it's a kind of code, right? We're not looking to see what does, a smiley face mean in math. Nothing. So someone asked, where does our plus x come from? We said that again came from distributing the negative sign through the parentheses. Where does the 3 come from? The 3's come from our formula that whatever you do to a, it's multiplied by 3, right? A turns into 3a. So our 2 became 3 times 2, and our 5 became 3 times 5. There's a lot of questions about this distributing negative signs. That's really important for us to review, I think, if you haven't seen this yet. If we have something like, let's say 10 minus 2 plus 5. Or let's not say 5, or no, let's not use numbers because obviously we can just add the numbers. But if we were working here, how would you solve this? We would do 10 minus y, and then you would do 10 minus 5, right? So you would say 10 minus y minus 5 equals 5 minus y. But what if we had 10 minus y minus 5? When you distribute the negative, when you distribute this sign here, right, because you're subtracting both pieces, you're basically subtracting, you're doing 10 minus y, that never changed, but then you're doing minus 5. What's a minus 5? It's a plus 5. So 10 minus y plus 5. So when you subtract and there are parentheses, make sure you're distributing the negative sign, right? It looks like it's a new thing that you haven't seen, but it's exactly the same thing that you've been doing. You just have to remember that when you're subtracting in parentheses, you subtract everything. And when you subtract a negative, we say it cancels out or it turns back into a positive. So that's where that came from. And again, more questions on this. This symbol does not mean multiplication. It can mean multiplication, other questions, but here they tell us it means something different. Do not mistake it for multiplication. This symbol is not a digit either. It's a symbol, right? Think of it, I was teaching something earlier. I think the best way to think about it is think of it as a code, right? If I told you like A, and maybe the fact that it looks like a multiplication sign is misleading. If I told you A symbol B equals A plus B, right? Let's keep it simpler. And then I asked you to solve 2, smiley face, 3. All you're doing is plugging in the numbers for the letters. What came before my symbol is A. So A is 2. What came after my symbol is B. So B is 3. So all we're asked to do is then, what is 2 plus 3? The answer is 5. It's as simple as that, except obviously they're getting more complicated by not just saying A plus B, but here they're saying 3A minus B. And then obviously in the question, including X's and including parentheses. This is the best strategy to get this answer. You're not going to get it by guess and check. You're going to get it by working backwards and plugging everything in to the formulas and using that code or function or whatever you want to call it. The question will always tell you what the operation is or what the symbol means, and it will always be different. So don't think that like, oh, I have to memorize that A symbol B means 3A minus B. Like I just showed you, it could mean A plus B. It could mean anything, but it will always tell you what it means. So that is that. I hope that answered most of your questions. If you are still confused, I encourage you to look at the explanations at the end of this packet or review the video to listen to our explanation again. Okay, another 30 seconds to copy down our explanation, and then we will be moving on to question 2.
I think it's a good idea right now. Let's take a minute and let's remind the kids every single question is worth the same amount of points. So Dasha, can you please dedicate a minute? Let's go through realistically a strategy with how to tackle those 30 math questions.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this yesterday, and I was going to reiterate this at the end of class mostly, but if you find that this is a question that's very challenging, but you find a different question easy, every math question is worth the same. So if something is taking too long, right, skip it and move on. You're not going to get extra points for getting the hard question right instead of the easy one. But keep in mind, obviously, a lot of people are going to get the easy ones right, so it's going to come down to how many of the challenging questions you're going to get right. But be mindful of your time and think about what is and isn't worth your time. Also, it's very important to plan ahead questions because even as we saw here, this question was a couple of steps. So you should kind of think to yourself when you first look at it, like, how am I going to approach it? Not necessarily saying, okay, here's what I'm doing, but I know that my thought process here is, okay, I'm going to work backwards. I have to plug in everything for A and B, and I'm going to plug in the 2 first, and then I'm going to plug in the 5 and the X, right? And kind of, in my brain, like work out the steps that I'm going to take and then take them. Because otherwise, if you go in blind, you have no idea how long this is going to take. You don't even know, where you're going to go with it. So just be mindful of that and use your time wisely. Again, on this right corner over here, just the last question here, on this right corner here, this is not a formula. This is just distribution, right? Distributing as you would in if you were just multiplying numbers, if you were adding, subtracting, so forth. Okay, this is it for these. Let's move on to the next question. Okay, the tax, so this question, it looks not too bad here right now, but I will mention that this is one of those questions that's going to look like a giant paragraph. it's going to look like a giant paragraph on your test. And you might look at it and say, I don't want to solve this. It's going to take me a lot of time because it's a lot to read. And sometimes it will, but sometimes you have to read through that long paragraph to get to a very short question. So again, don't let those scare you. They might not be as bad as they look just because it's a long paragraph. It says here, the taxi fare in Gotham City is $2.40 for the first mile, and additional mileage charge at the rate of 20 cents for each additional 0.1 mile. You plan to give your driver a $2 tip. How many miles can you ride for $10? So think in your head, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Right? I just got a lot of numbers, a lot of information. Plan before you start writing, before you start doing math, plan what my steps are. And take a stab at it, and feel free to share your answer in the chat. Back here, once you have an answer, and a lot of you do, which is really great, a lot of you are getting it right, which is awesome. But especially if you have time and you have an answer, take a minute and work backwards to check if your answer makes sense. So if I got 5 miles, right, think about how much would 5 miles cost me? Well, I'm gonna say $2.40 for the first mile, then I'm gonna multiply however many additional miles I have by the 20 cents, and so on. Make sure that your answer makes sense. Work backwards to check it. It's also very common, I see this all the time. People always ask about why don't I give you guys multiple choice questions? It's very common that you're going to get an answer, some answer that may not be right, and then you just choose the closest possible answer. And that could often, especially on the Hunter test, be a very big trap because they know the common mistakes you're making. So for these kinds of questions, and most questions on the Hunter test, do not use the answer choices. Solve it on your own, then use the answer choices. And don't get fooled by saying, oh, this is pretty close to mine, I'm only like 2 off, so it must be right. Nope, it's probably a trap. So redo it again, solve it again, and get the right answer. All right, a lot of you guys are getting this right. This is really great. For those of you who are getting it right, you might notice it took a while, right? It's a couple of steps. It's not a quick question, but it's a pretty relatively easy one in terms of math. There's no formulas, there's nothing complicated. It's just that it's going to take a while. So this is one of those questions that I might leave towards the end where when I have the time, I know I'll get it right, but it's going to take me a minute. So the first thing I always do is write out everything I know. I don't want to look at it as this giant paragraph. I want to look at only the information that I need to know. So I'm going to write half mile, right, for the first half mile, $2.40. Every 0.1 mile, 0.20 cents. Since everything is in miles and dollars, you don't necessarily have to use the mile descriptions, right? But if we were working with different units, that would be really, really important. And then I have a $2 tip. So in total, this for me comes out to be $10. So what do we have to do? We have to work backwards. Right? I can't work forward because I don't know where to start. So that should also be a thought going through your head. Don't say, wait, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. None of us know where to start. So we can only work backwards from what we know. The first thing I can easily subtract that's not dependent on anything is the $2 tip. So $8 is the fare. Then I want to subtract the one thing that's also another thing that's constant is how much I paid for the first half mile. So $8 minus $2.40 equals $5.60. Now this $5.60 is spent on the remaining miles. So I can divide it by my price per 0.1 mile. So 5.60 divided by 0.20, you will get, be careful of the decimals, you'll get 2.8. So great, 2.8 is my answer? 2.8 miles? Yes? Do we agree? No. Bunch of you are shaking your heads. No, why not? We forgot something. We forgot the first half mile. Great job for those of you calling me out in the chat box. Absolutely. Don't forget the first half mile. We have to do 2.8 plus 0.5 to get 3.3. If you got 3.3, you are correct. And you already know that 2.8 is going to be an answer choice. They want to get you. They want to see who rushed and just did all the math and said, all right, I got 2.8. That's not going to be us though, right? We're all going to pay attention. So that's how we solved it. Again, no complicated math. All we did was subtract and divide, and we worked backwards with a plan of how much we spent on each. Sorry, some of you guys are mentioning, you're right. This actually gives us 28, but that's 28 of 0.1 miles. So it's 2.8. This is 28 of 0.1 miles. But we need it to be in full miles, right? So we want to make it 2.8 miles. Not to be confused with the unit that they used, which is 0.1 miles. Thank you guys for catching that. Okay, a minute to copy this down if you haven't, and then we will go on to the next question. Any other questions on this? Feel free to drop it in the chat. And otherwise, I'm going to clear this and we're going to move on. Problem 3, systems of equations. Now these can also be long and annoying, but they are so doable. And lucky for us, there's also many ways to do this. I will show you one of my ways, but if you tell me that you did it in a different way, that is totally, totally fine. There is no singular right way to solve these. So take a minute, try it out. We're looking to solve for both x and y. So lots of ways to solve this. You can isolate one of the variables and plug it into the other. You can try to set one of the variables equal to each other. It's going to be x and y are going to be the same number for both equations. Right, that's what a system of equations means. They can be negative, they can be fractions. One great thing that even though these questions are very tedious and take a long time and can seem terrible, one really great thing about them is when you're right, you know you're right. Why is that? Because you can plug them in to both equations and you will know. So those of you who've submitted answers, check, plug in x and plug in y for both of these equations, and you'll know if you're right or wrong. So this is a really easy question in that regard to know if you're going to get it right or wrong. And guessing and checking will not help. Remember, we're looking for something to say x equals something, y equals something. And it's the same for both equations. I'm going to draw a line so I can show you two methods that will always work. Now, There is some questions, and I think someone already pointed this out, there is a potential shortcut in this question, and there might be in others, but we're not going to focus on the shortcuts because we need to know how to do this in any case. Okay, starting with first one. 4x plus 7y equals 11. The first way that I think we can do this is to set them equal to each other, set one of the variables equal to each other. I see this 4 and I see this 3, and I say, okay, well, I can make them both equal 12. What would I do? I'd multiply the first equation by 3. 12x plus 21y equals 33. Are we allowed to do this to an equation? Yes. Why? Because we're multiplying every single piece of it by the same thing. We're not changing the value of anything. That's really important. You can't just do things. They have to, align. Then second equation, 3x plus 6y equals 3. I can multiply each part of this equation by 4. So to get the same, 12x plus 24y equals 12. How did we get this one? Well, we multiplied everything by 4. Four times 3 gave us 12, 7 times 3 gave us 21, 11 times 3 gave us 33, right? In the second part, 3 times 4, right? Everything multiplied. Now, the 12s are equal. I'm going to save a step, but I'm going to rewrite the first equation as 12x equals 33 minus 21y. What did I do there? All I did was subtract the 21y from both sides, and I just moved it across. Did not change the equation. Second equation, I'm going to do the same thing. 12x equals 12 minus 24y. Did not change the equation. I simply just moved the 24y over. It is still equal. Now what do I know? I know that if A equals C and B equals C, then A equals B. That's exactly what's going on here. If I know that both of these things are equal to 12x, then they also must be equal to each other. 33 minus 21y equals 12 minus 24y. Now this is easier. We can solve this. Why? Because we only have one variable. So let's move the numbers to one side. And let's move the variables to another side. If I add 24 to both sides, I get 33 plus 3y is 12. Subtract 33, I'm going to get that 3y is 21. So y is negative, 3y would equal negative 21. So y equals negative 7. Awesome. We got one of them. What do we do now? Plug it in. It doesn't matter which one you solve for. You could have solved for x and then found y. In this case, we need to know both regardless, so it doesn't matter which one you solve for first. So I'm going to plug it, and you can also plug it into either equation. I'll plug it into the second one. It kind of looks easier. No real reason. I just like to work with smaller numbers. 3 times x plus 6 times negative 7 equals 3. 3x plus negative 42, or minus 42, equals 3. 3x, add 42 to both sides. 3x equals 45. X must be 15. So there we have it. Y is negative 7. X is 15. Now, I strongly encourage you to not just stop there. Check your work. You would be so surprised. You could have made such a silly mistake, but it could cost you the whole question. What if I forgot a minus sign? What if I added wrong? Could have been a silly mistake, but I don't want it to cost me the question because I know I can check. Does 4 times 15 plus 7 times y, y is -7. Does it equal 11? 4 times 15, 60. Plus -49. Does 60 minus 49 equals 11? Yes, check. Second one, 3 times 15 plus 6 times -7. Does this equal 3? Well, 3 times 15 is 45, plus 6 times -7 is -42. So does this equal 3? Yes, it does. We've checked both. We know they're right. These must be the answers. Someone brought up a really good question that I want to address. Someone said that in the real test, or in any test, there's multiple choices, multiple choice answers. Why don't we just plug in all the numbers from the answer choices? Great question. But what if the question didn't ask us for what is x plus y, but what if they asked us what is 4x plus 2y? Now we're stumped because we can't just plug in the x's and y's. Now we have another formula. And they often do that. They might ask you, what is x times y? And now that I found x and y, obviously it's easy, but I can't work backwards to find it. And they do it all the time specifically for that reason, so that you don't just plug them in. Because they're really testing, do you know the strategy to solve a system of equations? So just to review this real quick, what is the strategy that we used here? This first strategy, and like I said, I'll show you a second method, but this first method that we used was to find either the x's or the y's and multiply both equations by something to make them equal to each other. I chose the 4x and 3x, and I set them equal to each other by finding their common multiple and making them both 12. So in the first equation, I multiplied them all by 3. And in the second equation, I multiplied them all by 4. And that's how I got these two equations right here. Let me just highlight these, right? This one and this one. And then because they both had this 12x right here, I was able to set them equal to each other so I can compare them. So I can only work with the y's. When there's one equation and one variable, you can solve for it. And then we just did algebra, and that's how we got the y. Then we plugged it in to get the x. Let me show you the second method. Like I said, there's more than one way to solve this. Personally, I think the second one for this question is less efficient, and you'll see why. It's because it involves a lot of fractions. In some questions, the second method will be faster. There's no golden rule for it. You just feel it out, and either will work. So I chose the first equation. I said, okay, 4x plus 7y is 11. And what we can do is isolate one variable. Does not matter which one. I chose x. How did I isolate for x? I divided everything by 4. Divide by 4, divide by 4, divide by 4. And I got x plus 7 over 4y equals 11 over 4. Obviously, if I want to isolate x, I want to leave it alone. So I'm going to subtract the 7 over 4y. So x equals 11 over 4 minus 7 over 4y. Now, let's not forget, I have another equation. 3x plus 6y equals 3. What if I took my x, this x, and plugged it in here? It's the same one, right? So if I can do that, then I should be able to take this equation, 11 over 4 minus 7 over 4y, and plug it into that same x. So what do I get? 3 times, now instead of x, I'm going to write 11 over 4 minus 7 over 4y, parentheses, watch your parentheses. Remember we talked about distribution? Plus 6y equals 3. That last part did not change in the slightest. What do we do now? We solve. This is algebra. We solve for y. First, remember, distribute. What happens when we distribute? We distribute to each piece in the parentheses, right? We were just talking about this with the previous problem. Because there's a negative sign, we cannot forget it. 3 times 11 over 4 gave us 33 over 4. Then 3 times 7 over 4y, 21 over 4. Y. Careful, my 4s look like y's, so just be careful. Plus 6y equals 3. Now what do I have? I have 2 sets of y's and I have 2 sets of numbers. So I can move things around and put them on the same side. So if I start with 33 over 4, and then 6y is the same as 24 over y. So negative 21 over y over 4y plus 24 over 4y is plus 3 over 4y. Equals 3. Then I'm going to move the 33 over 4 over by subtracting it from both sides. To get, I'm just going to save it for space, but you would do 3 is 12 over 4, and then you subtract 33 over 4. And you're going to get 3 over 4y equals negative 21 over 4. And you can see where we're going with this. You multiply both sides by 4. You get 3y equals negative 21. So what does y equal? Negative 7. And then you do the same thing for x as we did in the previous problem. Plug it in for any equation at any point, and it will add up. Two strategies, very different, very helpful in different situations. Neither one is better than the other. Take a minute. I encourage you to copy both down. I know that in reality you only need one, but I encourage you to copy both so that you can, so that you know both strategies to use in different circumstances. Can you use, so to answer your questions, can you use one of the two strategies that you're most comfortable? Absolutely. You do not, on the test, you will not have time to solve both. You will only use one method. So I just want you to be familiar with both so that you have options to choose from. Whichever one you like more, use it. There's no right answer. Could you have also isolated x? Yes. Like I said, you can solve for x, you can solve for y. The reason I choose one over the other usually, or same question, someone asked which one do I prefer? I look at the numbers, right? Another way that I could have made this maybe easier for myself is in the second one, 3x plus 6y equals 3. I could have divided everything by 3 and said x plus 2y equals 1. Right, by dividing everything. So when you look at like which strategy should I use, I would ask myself, like, are there numbers that are easier to plug in? Are there numbers that might have a really close, like common multiple. There's no one right answer, but I learned that over time, the more of these you solve, you kind of get a feel of which one is easier to work in that circumstance. Yeah. Simplifying this to isolate for the x here is really fast. I did not catch that when I first solved this question. No guarantee that you will, right? So don't assume those shortcuts will work. So you should know both, because they can be mean and just give you terrible numbers that will never simplify. So we just have to be prepared for that outcome too. This can also be a time trap question. So be mindful, but it's solvable and it's great because you can check your work. Pop it down. I'll give you guys another minute. And then we will discuss. There is another question about systems of equations coming up. So great opportunity to test how well you understand these strategies. Okay, I'm clearing this out and let's move on. So 2 questions on this page. Second one, as you see, is also a system of equation, but now it just got harder. Now we have 3. Oh no, 3 variables, 3 equations. We just made it worse. What do we do? What do we do? Well, first we solve the first question. Then we look at the second one. So first question says, how many different real numbers x satisfy the equation? Notice, this could be a really, really easy question because they're not asking you what those solutions are. They're asking you how many. I encourage you to say what they are as part of your answer in the chat. Obviously, if this was a multiple choice question, you wouldn't have to, but be careful. There could be a trick, as with most of the questions on the Hunter test. And the reason I included this question also is to show you that this kind of question could be 15, 20 seconds. You can look at it and know the answer right away if you know a shortcut. You can also solve this question in about 30 seconds pretty easily, but it will be one of those questions that that might be in the beginning that you're barely thinking about, that are so quick that you get it wrong. And so that's something that we just need to be very, very careful with. Some of you are getting it right, some of you are getting it wrong. A couple of you asked an important question of what is a real number? Now, a real number is any number that is real. That was helpful, right? It's any number that can be plotted on a graph. So Could it be a fraction? Yes. Could it be a negative number? Yes. The only thing it can't be is imaginary. And you will learn about imaginary numbers later in school. Irrational numbers or repeating decimals are considered real numbers. I don't think that helps you here, but yes, they are. And if you solved it and you're happy with your answer, take a look at the much longer system of equations in 2.5, right? You thought we were done with those? No, they come back for more. I have a variety of answers for the first. I'll give you guys another minute and then we'll look at it. Okay, let's get started with this one. So we have x squared minus 5 squared is 16. So what do? We, as many of you would know, we can square root both sides. So we would get x squared minus 5 equals 4, right? The square root of 16 is 4. This looks easy. I add 5 to both sides. X squared is 9. So x is 3. Pretty easy math-ish, right? So my answer is 3. So there's only one answer choice. What do you mean there could be multiple real numbers? How's that possible? I only got 3. Well, some of you guys are already saying it. There are things that we could have done. Something to remember. When we usually, and this is where they try to trick you, usually when we solve for a square, when we say, what's the square root of 9? You say 3. What's the square root of 25? You say 5. But we always forget that there is a little brother or a little sister, and it's their negative equivalent. So remember, in a square, it's two numbers, or a number multiplied by itself that gives us that number. So 3 multiplied by itself gives us 9. But what about their negatives? What is negative 3 times negative 3? That's also positive 9. So if we go back to the beginning, where we took this square root, we actually should have said that x squared minus 5 equals 4, or that x squared minus 5 equals -4. Everyone always forgets about the negatives, but they are a solution set too. So when we said 4 and we added 5, then we got x squared equals 9. And again, don't forget the negatives. What number times itself could give us 9? It could be 3 or -3. So we have two answers. Am I done? Is my solution set 2 numbers? No, we forgot our other side of it equaling -4. So then we do the same process. We add 5 to both sides. X squared equals 1. Now, what number multiplied by itself can give us 1? Well, following suit with what we already said about the 3, -3, we know it could be 1, but what about -1? So it could be positive, it could be negative, so therefore we have 4 answers. That's the final answer. 4. Four is referring to how many different numbers it could be. If the question asked us, what are the 4 numbers? The answer is 3, -3, 1, -1. And this is because we always forget that when you take a square root, it's actually both the positive and the negative version. Think about it. If you're saying, I've never heard of this before, this sounds like a lie, which could be possible because it's not something we talk about in school a lot. Ask yourself what it means to be a square or a square root, right? When you take a square root of a number, you're asking yourself what number multiplied by itself gets you that square. And let's not forget that -3 times -3 gives us +9. And -1 times -1 gives us a +1 as well. So the square root of 16 is 4 and -4, because -4 times -4 is +16. So in these types of questions, there's always 2 solutions. So something to think about. So someone asked a great question. Is the answer always going to be 4 for these kinds of questions? And yes, actually. If I told you and why I said this question could take us 30 seconds or 15 seconds if we know the shortcut, because if I see that there's 2 sets of squares, and I already know that they're asking us for the number of solutions, then I know I'm going to have 2 and 2, so 4. If I told you x squared minus 2,432 squared equals 9 million. You don't have to solve it. You just know that the first square will give us 2 answers and the second square will give us 2 answers, assuming, of course, that the numbers are going to work out. But yes, and if it were cubes, same thing, right? I'll give you a minute to copy this if you haven't, and you already see the next problem on the screen, but I will obviously go down when we need space to write it. What do we do here? I already showed you guys 2 versions of solving this and a 3rd extra shortcut version, if you find it here. What do we do when we have 3? The answer is really the same thing, but now we just have to be very careful of what order we do it in, because we can't solve for 3 things at the same time. We're going to have to solve for one of them first and then the other 2. But Same steps, same process. So take a look, test it out. Let us know what you get. We're looking here for y, but obviously for the purposes of our review, we are going to try and solve for x, y, and z. This will take a little longer, so just be patient with it, but it is doable. I'll scroll down and give you guys more space here. And actually, as I'm sitting here with you guys, I already managed to find a shortcut that I didn't find originally. So you won't always find it right away, and that's okay. That's why it's important to know how you could solve it. And as always, these numbers can be fractions, decimals, negative, positive. And again, if you have an answer, check it, plug it in, do your numbers work. I'm not hearing a lot of answers. Is it taking a long time, or are we confused? Feel free to ask questions if it can help guide your work. You can type out or, try to explain like what you've been doing so far, and I can try to lead you in the right direction. Also, it's possible when I first did this question, I ended up in a dead end where it didn't work. So not every method or every solving for one number will work for the other. So it's important to know where to start. And there's no magic rule of knowing. Sometimes it's a bit of a trial and error. And that's okay. Okay. Seems like there's some trouble here. So let's go over it. Let's do it together. What did I do? I used the what do they have in common strategy when I first did it. I'll show you the shortcut after, but let's start with like, how do we do this? How I did it when I first did it without looking at shortcuts. I wanted to work with this 4 and this 2. Is that the one? Yeah. And the first one, 4x plus 2y plus z is 12. And I multiplied the second equation, 2x plus y minus 2z equals 1. I multiplied that by 2 to make it also equal to 4. 4x plus 2y minus 4z equals 2. Make sure we understand where I got this from. I did not pick these numbers randomly. I got them by multiplying this equation by 2. Do we see why we did that? Because now we have something in common. We have 4x plus 2y in common. So in the first one, 4x plus 2y equals 12 minus z. In the second one, we have 4x plus 2y equals 2 minus, oops, this should be a z. Oops, yeah. Thank you guys for pointing that out. My plus 4z. No one caught that one. So now that we know, we followed our, if they both equal the same thing, then they must equal each other, right? So we can say 12 minus z equals 2 plus 4z. This is really convenient because since I was able to get rid of the x and y, I can now just solve for z. This would shorten it by a lot, right? So move the numbers to one side, so subtract 2, 10 minus z equals 4z, add the z to the other side, so 10 equals 5z, z equals 2. That made life so much easier. I have one variable. Now, I can plug it in to the last equation. Why did I choose this one? Because it only has one other variable. So when I plug in z, I can solve for x. It's like a chain reaction. 6x plus 2 times 2 equals negative 5. 6x plus 4 is negative 5. 6x equals negative 9. X equals negative 9 over 6, which I chose to rewrite as negative 1.5, but you can also write it as negative 3 over 2. Wow, I just got another variable. Now that I have 2, now I'm on the very last easiest part of plugging them both in to either the first or second equation to solve for y. I'm going to use the first one just to not deal with the negative, but of course either one should work. So 4 times negative 1.5 plus 2y plus 2 instead of z equals 12. So 4 times negative 1.5, 6 plus 2y plus 2 is 12. 6 plus 2 is 8 plus 2y equals 12. 2y, am I doing this right? Negative 6. Gotta be careful. 4 plus 2y is 12, so 2y wait a second. Where did we go wrong? 2 times negative 1.5. Oh, right, 1y, not 2y. That's fine. I confused the first equation for the second one. Y equals 8. So we have now solved for z, x, and y. So your answer should be, to answer the question for y, the answer should be 8. To answer our question of what are all of them, x is negative 1.5, y is 8, z is 2. Now, let me just to quickly show you guys the shortcut that I found while I was solving this, is that I realized that in these first two, I think I could have solved for z faster. It was kind of similar. I also could have made it, I could have divided the first one by 2 and said that 2x plus y plus 1/2 z equals 6. And then since the second one says 2x plus y minus 2z equals 1, I could have also set 1/2 z, or sorry, 6 minus 1/2 z equal to 1 minus 2z. Now that I'm looking at it, it could really be, it's kind of the same amount of steps as the one I did, but I guess another version never helps to know an extra. So then subtract 1 from both sides and add 1/2 a z to both sides. So 5 equals, this is positive, 2.5z, so z is 2. You could also, I believe, subtract the two equations and get something similar, but these are the answers. Let me just make sure that we wrote all that right. Yeah, so you guys are pointing out this should be 4 times x plus 2y plus z equals 12. So negative 6 plus 2y plus 2 is 12. Negative 4 plus y is 12. Two y is 12. So y is 8. Okay. So I'll leave this up for you guys to copy. And I think that's going to be our last question for the day. Remember, there are still plenty of review questions on from those links, and you can continue working on them if you'd like. I also really recommend doing chapter 3, the chapter 3 homework review. Those questions were really helpful. Some of them I know get tricky towards the end, so don't worry about those, but the beginning of the chapter 3 questions are also really helpful. And yeah, 1 second, let me just get that out of the way. And now I'd like to just open up the floor to questions, either about this question or anything we've reviewed so far, and also anything about Hunter. I will try my best to to answer as much as I can. Someone asked, what are you guys asking? Take a minute, copy, make sure that this makes sense before we move on as well. The homework that I'm referring to is in that link where you got the Zoom link for this. There are all the links to all of these packets, and they're broken up by category, and you'll see that it was like chapter 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they each have an unannotated, which is like the blank packets, and annotated, which had explanations to those questions, and then the third one was a homework packet. So these questions that we all worked on today were all pulled out of homework packets. And I think that they were really helpful. So definitely like the first 5 or so in each of those packets, I encourage you to do. Keep in mind, they do get harder like towards the end of the packet. So don't stress that you can't do the last couple ones. They are a little too much. So another great question, does Hunter reuse their test questions? I have not seen an exact duplicate of a question, but I have seen the same type of question with different numbers, such as the system of equations questions, such as those symbol questions that we did in the beginning. So that's why we teach it. There are a couple of questions about essays, and I don't want to get too deep into it because there is going to be an essay seminar as well. In terms of vocabulary and transition words, there is no exact bank. I think in the Kweller homeworks and other materials, there are really, really great lists to refer to, and I would also refer to the essay webinar that we will be hosting. Another question was, will they recycle prompts for the essay? And no, they have not done so yet. I think there have been a lot of similar prompts, which is why we study and review the prompts that they gave us and from prior tests, but we don't anticipate that they will recycle the exact same prompt. So a couple of math questions. Is the math closer in difficulty to the AMC 8? A lot of the questions that we reviewed in these sessions were AMC 8 questions, and we believe that a lot of the Hunter test math is like the AMC 8, but a little bit easier for a lot of them. So I hope that's a bit of a relief. The AMC 8 can get challenging, but I would not say that it's unreasonable. It is something to expect, but they could be a little bit harder. The AMC 8 could be a little bit harder. And will Hunter teach this kind of math? Yes, it will. They have a really, really strong curriculum, and because they are not officially affiliated with the DOE, they can choose to make their curriculum as they want it. So it is a little bit faster than the regular curriculum, and we do cover topics that are not covered in public schools. So that's kind of exciting. Some other questions. How much scrap paper will you get? That's a great question. The answer is you don't get like extra sheets of paper. but you will have a whole test that you can write on, like the booklet. You can write front, you can write back. So we always encourage you to use the back of the page that you're given. We encourage you to use like any space that you have in between, which in reality is more than enough space. Like they are giving you space to solve each question. It has never been an issue. And if it is an issue because you're trying to like brute force write out every answer, you are doing something wrong. For the essay, you will get a planning page. So you will have more than enough space to, use that to construct your essay. So scrap paper should not be an issue for you. Will there be a lot of questions on the test similar to what we did today? Yes. That's why we review them. I hope it's helpful. If these were challenging, don't be scared. You will review them in your courses here at Kweller, and they will seem easier. Additional information about essays and the essay webinar is again on that link that had the Zoom link to this class. I believe it's the first part, and it's taught by Mo Khan, one of my colleagues, so he will give a really, really great overview and explanation of the essay. If you want to review the math, someone asked a really great question about which of the annotated sections and homeworks are close to the exam. And I think personally 1 through 4 was a little bit closer and easier, and that's what we tried to review in these sessions. 5 through 7 were a little bit more challenging, so I don't want that to intimidate or scare anyone, but also great practice. For systems of equations, do 2 variable or 3 variable equations show up more often? Definitely 2 variable equations show up more often. Very likely that you'll have like 1 question that has that. These 3 variable ones are pretty rare and obviously more challenging, like we reviewed, but it's really good practice because if you practice with these, the other ones will get so much easier, right? Practice with the hard stuff so that the real stuff sounds easy.
Dolly, I just want to remind everyone, hi everyone, I just want to remind you that it is 8:53. So Dasha, did you get to put in the chat the let me just put the survey form, everyone, so that you have it. Okay, I'm putting this in, and can you just change the settings also just to give so everyone can take a moment. These are our final 5 minutes with Dasha. Okay, I just want to share that with you. This is in the chat right now. Okay, so I'm opening the link. Everyone, please take a moment. And also, if you could fill this out, Dasha, please elaborate as well so we have it. We just want to say, Dasha, we will miss you. These are our final big 5 minutes with you. Okay? Thank you, Dasha.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
I'm happy to be
Thank
here.
you.
I hope you guys learned at least something, and I wish you all the best of luck on this test. Do not whatever this test, whether you get in or you don't get in, it does not matter. Well, not to say it doesn't matter, but you will be successful in any school that you go to. So just believe in yourselves, have confidence, go in, show them what you know, and everything will be okay.
And I also want to add, thank you guys. Oh my gosh, this is so nice. I also want to give you some words of wisdom that you should have as well with the exam. This is not about the Hunter test. I'll tell you what it's really about. It's about being a warrior. And I want to be very clear with my word choices. You need to have ammunition to survive adulthood. And I am choosing my words wisely. Navigating adulthood is hard. You need excellent vocabulary. You need excellent grammar. You need excellent writing skills. You need to know how to answer and use logic in a tough math problem, because that's going to open doors and it's going to open pathways. You need to learn how to think critically, and you need to learn how to be a warrior, because good luck figuring out how to be an adult without these necessary skills. You must work on your knowledge, expanding your knowledge. Knowledge is power. This is not about a Hunter test. This is not about an ELA. This is not about a 90 on a report card. It's about you working to be the best version of yourself you can possibly be. Your job is to show the world that you can speak, you can present, you can communicate, you can Really stand up for yourself and navigate your education. This is about you being in control of your destiny. Remember my words. Dasha is a future lawyer. I'm so proud of you. I've known you since you were in high school. Now you're an adult and you work full time and you're doing this at night. Dasha used to work at Kweller 12 hours a day. The grit. Do you know what it means to teach 12 hours a day? This is a big deal. I also want to share with you that I myself am a child of immigrants. My parents, as I told you yesterday, are from Chisinau, Moldova. Who remembers where my heritage is from? Guess where that's from? I looked it up online. Moldova is the poorest country in all of Eastern Europe. Kweller Prep has become an empire. I just want you to know it's not about where you start, it's about where you finish. Never forget that. Right now, you're in the 6th grade. You can design your entire life right now. This is your chance. This is your opportunity. I really want to thank you, Juliet. Which one was the best quote? I said quite a few lines here. But I do want to share that with you. All right. Dasha, I want to thank you for being the girl boss that you are and for running 2 hours of math times 3. And I want
And
to
thank you all for coming. You guys all managed to get through 6 hours of math in 3 days. That is not an easy task for anyone.
Oh my goodness, they haven't even like started the meat of the course. Do you believe this? This is the pre-course. So we gave everyone an injection of advanced level mathematics. I want to share and convey with you that you are all my heroes. I am so proud of you. I admire you. I know you're in the 6th grade. I want to make it clear. I admire you. I respect you. I am honored that you are here and you are the future. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, they said they want more math webinars. I think you should quit the day job.
So you guys want to do math for another 3 hours tonight?
No. Dasha, do you mind for a minute? Let's take everyone off of mute. Let's give Dasha a nice. I'll actually do it myself. And Dasha, everyone, please fill out the survey. We need to see what is working. I'm gonna go and ask everyone to unmute so we can give you a huge thank you. And I just want to remind you, thank you for being the warriors that you are. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Ready?
Thank
1,
you.
2,
Thank
3.
you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
Dasha.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
teaching everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for this wonderful experience. Bye, everybody. All
Bye,
right. Oh
everyone.
my
Thank
God,
you
look
for
at how
coming.
cute this is. You guys are the best. I'm taking screenshots. Look at Alexander. How'd you do that? Wow, look at that. Thank you. That's very creative.
You guys are all so smart and you're all going to crush it. So I believe in all of you. Take what we learned, review your notes, review the recordings. You guys got this.
That's what we want to hear. And Dasha, we are so happy that you're doing this. I really just want to share with all of you how grateful I am. These are very special moments. Everyone is learning, everyone's achieving, everyone's going to be a more confident test taker, better prepared years from now to succeed and to navigate the adult world. And that's what the real goal is. The real goal is to gain knowledge. Nothing I'm saying is scripted. Nothing I'm saying is rehearsed. I am an adult. I know what it takes to be one. It is hard. Please work on your vocabulary, your essay writing, your grammar, your reading. You need to be equipped to develop these skills and these opportunities. I'm very proud of you. Please fill out the survey. I'm giving you the survey again. Dash, you want to say something and then we're going to close up? That's it.
Yeah, fill out the survey, guys. Review the notes. All of the questions that we did are in the links and they all have more explanations and stuff. Do not get stressed out, right? It's just a test at the end of the day, right? if it doesn't work out, it's going to be okay. And if it works out, Hunter is going to be a great opportunity. And you'll have so many more chances while you are at Kweller to learn about all the amazing things that Hunter offers. And I hope to see you guys as the next generation of Hunter students. You are all girl bosses and boy bosses and queens.
Yeah, and whatever, and by the way, whatever you want, whatever gender you want to be, does not matter. You're the boss. I just want to be clear, as long as you are large and in charge. I want to be very clear on that. You need to lead. LEAD. Your job is to lead. That's why we're really doing this. You're the future leaders. You're going to lead. Okay? Remember this moment. Oh my gosh, I love these comments. I just want to tell the kids that you're my favorite. I'm reading them. All right, Dasha. Dasha, how do you feel 6 hours later?
I feel like I learned more math. Do you guys feel like you learned more math?
But for the remaining students who are here, you haven't reviewed this. I mean, you work full time, you don't do this day to day. I mean, do you still remember all of this? You took this test yourself in the 6th grade. So I guess as we close up our webinar, how are you even able to teach this material so many years later?
I think one of the great things about Hunter is that it really engraves in you a lot of information that you think you will never use in life, but I will never forget the Pythagorean theorem, and I hope you guys don't forget it from yesterday's class either.
Aw, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. I'm really proud of you. Stay strong. Knowledge is power. How about we close up by typing that into the chat? Knowledge is power. Ready? Don't forget. Capiche? Oh my gosh, you guys make me so proud. I literally love the 6th graders. What do I do? Kweller Prep Services, grades 3 to 12, but then my heart is with the 6th graders. It's terrible. I'm not supposed to have favorites.
All right, have a good night, guys.
You guys
Go
are
to
my
bed, let it
favorite.
marinate in your brains. Make sure you memorize everything.
You're my favorites. I want you to know that my 6th graders, you are my favorites. You are the bestest. All right, make me proud. Hey, Dasha, you want to do a few more math webinars? Look at how much they love you. I think
Okay.
Dasha's going to quit her day job and just teach Hunter every day until the test. You're right.
I would love to teach you guys every day. All right,
I'm
have a
very
good night.
proud.
Let's log off and
All right, I'm closing up, okay? Thank you, everyone. Bye, everyone. Have
thank
a
you all.
wonderful
Have a good
night.
night.
Bye, everybody. Bye-bye. I'm closing up.